and I am going to do the same.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is Joel Friedlander from thebookdesigner.com, and I am really excited today to welcome to this webinar Penny Sansevieri. Penny's going to be talking about how to sell your books by the truckload on Amazon.com. I love that title. I want to sell a truckload of my books. Can you imagine how many books that is? That is awesome. Now, I have the feeling that almost everybody on this call knows who Penny is. Penny is, to my mind, the leading authority on what is happening on Amazon.com right now. She's been marketing books online longer than anybody. And to give you a little fuller perspective on Penny's background, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Penny. If you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the question box. I'm going to try to answer as many of them as I can. It may be that we don't answer all the questions during the webinar. We will also have a Q&A session at the end, and you're invited to stay for that. But in the event we don't answer all the questions, we will have the questions. We will attempt to answer all the questions over the next couple of days. So it may be a couple of days before you get an email from Penny answering your question. I also want to note that this webinar is being recorded, and we will send out a replay link either tonight, this afternoon, or first thing in the morning. It's probably going to be tonight. The audio and video seem to be working fine. Rosemary's here for the next 15 minutes to help anyone with problems. After that, if you have a problem, try logging out and coming back into the webinar or call the GoToWebinar support line. We're scheduled for an hour, and we will finish the presentation in about an hour, and then we'll have Q&A after that for those who wish. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Penny. Penny, it's all yours.
Joel, thank you so much. First off, I am completely thrilled to be part of this. And Joel, thanks so much for extending an invitation to your fabulous authors. We have a lot of people on this call. We have almost 800 folks listening, I know, from all over the world. So thank you for those of you who are up at 1 and 2 in the morning. And you guys are all troopers, because I know that marketing is not easy. And I know this because I'm an author, and it's very easy to get lost in the slew of books that get published every single day, which we'll cover in a minute, because I've got a bunch of stats and facts and figures and some tidbits and things that we're going to cover in this webinar. I've been in the industry for 15 years, and I was telling somebody I was doing a session at Romance Writers of America in New York last week, and I was telling someone there that I've been in business before there was Facebook and Amazon, which makes me sound really old, but I am an author. I'm an author of 14 books, and one of the biggest challenges that I find every author faces is the big D, so discovery. And when I was at Book Expo this year, everybody was talking about discoverability. How do you get found? So this webinar is going to break down things that I have discovered on Amazon. And how I came to be curious about Amazon is because I am a naturally very curious person. I want to know how stuff works. And I knew that there was more to the quote-unquote madness than just throwing your book up on Amazon and hoping that somebody would pay attention to it. So I took quite a bit of time. I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and I've been researching this. I've been testing it and testing it again and testing it and testing it yet again. Nothing gets put into this session without it being thoroughly tested. So this isn't just Penny had a great idea, let's make a slide. It's definitely tested, because as we all know, without testing, we're really sort of flying blind. So I became very curious about how Amazon works, and consequently, I wrote the book How to Sell Books by the Truckload, and also created this webinar. And I write a lot about Amazon. So first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about how this program was created, because I want you all to understand that this to some degree levels the playing field a little bit, okay? As I was researching Amazon and trying to figure out how can authors succeed there, I decided to do it with someone who is unknown, who wrote fiction, because those of you who wrote fiction, and I know we have a lot of you on the call, many of you probably know that people will say over and over again, well, fiction is just so tough to promote. Fiction is tough to promote. And I believe that, 15 years ago when I was first in the industry, that was true. But now it's become even easier. And I think as we go through this program, you'll see why. I also wanted to make sure that it was an unknown author, because I think it's really important to have a level playing field as opposed to an author who has 15 books out or somebody who has a big social media presence, right? Because that always skews the results. And as I mentioned, we've been testing this longer than 12 months, more like 24, 36. So first, I want to change how you think about Amazon. Don't think about Amazon as a store, but rather as a search engine. Because as you'll start to see throughout this presentation, Amazon actually does respond as a search engine. And I think that as you start to apply some of these things to your book, you'll realize that really what you're trying to do is to get your book higher up on the Amazon search engine as opposed to higher up in the store. SEO Moz, which you wouldn't really know this site unless you were a total and complete geek like myself. But SEO Moz a few months ago did an article on Amazon and ranking on Amazon and things like that. And in it, he said that if you're an author, you really don't care about Google. What you want to do is you want to rank on Amazon. Now, let's first talk about metadata, because it's a term that a lot of people throw around, and there's never a really good explanation for it. And it's kind of the new, I call it the new publishing confetti, because a lot of people are saying, ooh, you got to pay attention to your metadata. It's like this new thing in publishing, right? When I was at Book Expo, everybody was talking about it, but nobody really explains it. And what this webinar does is it does break down metadata, but it also demystifies it. So metadata essentially are the keywords that are associated with your book and your book's categories. Those are two of the three things that will help you enormously on Amazon. And I'm going to break down each of these in just a minute. But let's first look at the numbers. And I don't mean to start this presentation off with a little bit of a buzzkill slide, but there are 4,500 books published every day in this country. Now, these are U.S. numbers, because I know we do have a lot of international folks attending. So there are 4,500 books published every day. Part of the reason why this number is so high is because of the third bullet, which is that ebooks are very hard to track because many authors will go straight to ebook on Amazon. Amazon is very cone of silence, so they don't actually tell us how many books are on their site. Last we heard there were 4 million, but I can tell you with 4,500 being published every day, I would expect that number to be considerably higher. I don't care if you have a book that was out 5 years ago or if you just published today. What I'm going to teach you today is going to absolutely work for an older book. In fact, I've taught this session in person and had people leave the session, go up to their room, do the keyword research, change the keywords, and come back to me and go, oh my gosh, my 5-year-old book is starting to do better. So if you have older books, definitely you want to go through and see what their categories and search terms are. So the algorithms work this way: categories, search terms, and reviews, which we're going to talk about these on the call today. Now, by algorithms, what I mean is yes, you want to come up higher in search. That is absolutely true. But Amazon also wants you to sell books. So if your book is starting to gain some traction, Amazon will start to, your book will start to show up in things like the strip, the strip at the bottom of the Amazon page. I'm sorry, Joel, I just lost my screen there for a second. Can you guys still see it? Joel, can you still see my screen?
No, it's black at the moment, Penny.
Okay. Yeah, it's black. It's weird. Okay, so I am going to, there we go. Now it's back.
There it is.
It's very strange. Everything else is turned off. Anyway, you'll start to see that, you'll see your book come up at the strip at the bottom of the search page when you pull up a book on Amazon. The also recommends, as well as at the end of the e-readers. So if you have an e-reader and you get to the end of the book and the also bots, that's another place where the Amazon, where the recommendations will start to crop up, as well as in newsletters and things like that. So aside from coming up higher in searches, Amazon also gives it a little bit of an internal boost. Okay, so let's go off to the next slide here. And I may actually have to click out of this and go back over. Okay, so let's go up. Sorry about that. I think when it bounced off of the screen, it sort of changed the slides on me. So let's first talk about keywords. Now, whatever you know about keywords is probably wrong. And the reason for that is the term keyword. Consumers do not search on a single keyword. They search on keyword strings, and that's the first piece of this that you're going to need to fix on your Amazon page. Okay, so you're going to need to think about how do consumers search, and there's a great keyword tool that I use, and I'll tell you something, I use this for everything, and it's called Ubersuggest. Ubersuggest is not an attractive site. This is what it looks like. And Ubersuggest essentially scrapes Google every single day for searches. And so it searches on, so it scrapes it for what consumers are searching on. So if I typed in, so for example at the top there, I typed in book marketing. And here I have A through Z, what consumers have searched on book marketing in the last 24 hours on Google. The site is invaluable. I use it for everything, even if I want ideas, blog ideas, things like that. But you can use this to start to get an idea or to start to get a clearer idea of what your reader may be searching on. Now, keep in mind, for nonfiction, sometimes this gets to be a little bit easier. So I wrote a book called, coincidentally, How to Sell Books by the Truckload on Amazon. This book was not terribly difficult to discern what the keywords are because the benefit is fairly obvious. But if you're talking about a mystery book or you're talking about a romance novel or a memoir, the benefit starts to get a little less obvious. Now, you know the benefit. You wrote a good book. It's an entertaining story. But your reader is probably not searching on those keywords. Maybe your reader is searching on contemporary romance, love triangle, or something like that. And this is the thing that is important to note, is that your keywords need to be keyword strings. Now, you're allowed to have 7 keyword strings when you upload your book to Amazon, to the Amazon dashboard. And this is where you want to get really creative. So, for example, my keyword strings for How to Sell Books by the Truckload are along the lines of how to sell more books on Amazon, which sounds like a complete sentence, and it is. When I looked at the dashboards of 10 of the Amazon pages for authors, 9 of them did not even have keywords in them. And the problem with that is that a lot of authors don't think that they need it. They think their book is just going to show up or it's not, and they tend to leave a lot to chance. And you definitely do not want to leave a lot to chance. Now, after you've done a little bit of searching on Ubersuggest, you kind of get a sense of, what consumers are searching on. Now, I'm going to tell you that the Ubersuggest results are not going to be definitive, and I'll show you why in a minute. So take your keywords on over to Amazon and type them into the search bar. And here's where Amazon really starts to look a lot like Google. When you start to type in your keyword or your keywords, it pops up results of keywords that are already being searched or that are pretty popular on Amazon. So the Amazon system almost tells you what keywords to use, okay? But there's another step here, and I don't have, because sometimes we go 2 hours and sometimes 3 hours, and I've taught for Joel's group before, and I can kind of show you on-page examples, which you don't have time to get into today. But the next piece of this, between finding the keyword and using the keyword string, is you want to see what the sales rank is for that particular keyword. So let's say, for example, I decided selling books on Amazon, which is, I think, 5th or 6th down on that list, okay, that you're looking at on screen. So that keyword, I'm now going to pop into the Amazon search bar, and I want to see what else comes up under under that keyword string. And I want to see what the sales rank is of that keyword, because that's the step. That's the next step. Is you want to find a good keyword string, but you want to make sure that people are actually buying books under that keyword string. So for example, if I were to type in selling books on Kindle, and I look and see what books are coming up under that, on that side, and the sales rank is 500,000 or greater, that's probably not a keyword string that I'm going to want to use. The higher the sales rank number, the higher the sales number on Amazon, the fewer books that the book is actually selling. The lower the sales rank, the more books you're selling. And here's a little something you guys probably didn't know. If you have a 27,000 sales rank or less, you are considered the top 1% of Amazon. Okay? So take your keywords, pop them on over to Amazon. What I recommend that you do is get 15 keyword strings. The reason I say 15 is because you're allowed to have 7 on the back end of Amazon. So when you have, you're going to put in 7, and you may decide that you want to swap them out. Maybe they're not working for you. Maybe your book is not really moving. So I recommend getting 15, because the last thing that you want to do is make this your life's work. This is not your new job. You want to find your keywords, and then you want to move on to doing, you want to install them in Amazon, and then you want to move on to other promotion. So where do you use your keywords? Your title, subtitle, book description, and the back end of Amazon. And if you haven't already titled your book, that's obviously still open to you. You could essentially, that's what I did with How to Sell Books by the Truckload, is I did this research, and I thought, that's a really good book title. So I use it in my title. You may not be able to. You could possibly use it in your subtitle. If your book does not have a subtitle, then I would recommend shoot Amazon an email and just ask them if it's okay. Because one of the things you never ever want to do is you never want to violate the terms of service with Amazon. There is so much that you can do on Amazon that is completely within their terms of service, that unless you are trying to game the system, which I never recommend, you can still succeed by using these tools. So if you don't have a subtitle, just ask them if it's okay. Book description and the Amazon dashboard, which I'll show you both of those in a minute. So the Amazon keywords, if you have your book uploaded to KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, you've probably seen this dashboard. This is a very small screenshot of what the actual dashboard looks like. But under number 3, it says target your book customers to customers, search keywords up to 7 optional. I recommend use all 7, and you can use the sentences as I mentioned. Okay. Book description. Now, if you have a fiction book, this gets a little trickier, right? So if you have a fiction book, generally what I recommend is that you just add the keyword strings to describe book reviews. So for example, let's say Sally Field with USA Book News writes a review, and under her description would say Sally Field, USA Book News, reviewing on contemporary romance, or contemporary romance love triangles, or something like that. The thing is that the Amazon search engines do spider the book descriptions. So keep in mind that the more keywords that you can put into your book description and still have the book description make sense, the better your visibility is going to be on Amazon. So Amazon categories. Next up, Amazon categories. That's the next piece of this, because narrow categories are best, and getting to number 1 does trigger more internal promotion from Amazon. However, for you fiction folks, Amazon categories have changed slightly. Okay. Amazon themes has now replaced categories, and I was surprised. As I mentioned, I was at Romance Writers, and I was surprised how many genre fiction authors still don't know about this. So I want to make sure and cover it for those of you. And I took some screenshots from today, because sometimes Amazon changes the themes that they have. But essentially, themes are the new subcategories on Amazon for fiction authors. They are eventually going to be rolling this out to nonfiction folks, but right now it's just you fiction fiction people. So if you want to get into a much more narrow category, like let's say your protagonist, let's say you've written a mystery and your protagonist is, you know, an FBI agent or a rogue cop or something like that, those are now deep dive themes slash categories on Amazon, which I'll show you in a minute. So this link takes you to this page. Now this page has changed slightly, and I'm sorry I didn't get a screen grab of the new page, but it is essentially the same thing. This is the book side of Amazon, the print book side of Amazon. Let me just rephrase that. This is the print book side of Amazon. So the print book side, this, you know, you can click on any one of these links and it'll take you down a rabbit hole of choices, right? So that'll give you a whole bunch of options to pick your category. Now I want to skip back to this slide here. I want to show you guys this dashboard. So take a look at the dashboard. Under categories, you're going to see business and economics, language arts disciplines, etc. These are traditional industry BISAC categories, which are categories that every store, a library, etc. adheres to. The categories that you're going to find doing this Amazon research aren't going to look anything like that, but I'll tell you how to update those in just a second. So this link takes you here, okay? But there's a whole different side to Amazon that I want you guys to check out, because one of the things I found is that while this research is great, this research is even better. Amazon's Kindle store, for whatever reason, and a lot of what Amazon does is kind of a little bit of a mystery. I mean, it's not like I don't work for Amazon. I just call them a lot and bug them and ask them a bunch of questions. But Amazon's Kindle store, for whatever reason, has a significant number of narrow, niche, deep dive, really, really interesting categories. Okay, so to get there, what you're going to do is you're going to click Kindle store. All right, I'm going to try to draw. Not very good at drawing, so please grade on a curve. You're going to hit Kindle store, you're going to highlight that, and then you're going to click Go. Okay, when you do, that's going to take you over to this page. All right, now from here you're going to click Kindle eBooks, and that's going to drop you into the ebook only side of Amazon. Now, part of the reason why I like this is because this allows me a greater measure of creativity for finding niche categories, in particular for nonfiction. So I want to make sure that you guys know that. For the fiction folks, the themes are what's going to change your life. For nonfiction, you really want to get as narrow as you possibly can. Now, I clicked on business because business tends to be a very, very cluttered category. And I don't know if y'all can see this at the bottom of the screen under technology. So it's taxation, technology, and then women in business. In those brackets, you're going to see a number, 955. What that is the number of books that are in that category. Now think about that. Only out of 4 million books, well, let's just say that number is 6 million, because with all the books being published every day. So out of 4,500 books being published every day, 6 million odd books on Amazon, only 955 are in women in business. That to me seems pretty low. So this is part of the reason why you want to do this research, is because you want to get into as narrow a market as you can. All right. Now take a look at this. So a lot of management, a lot of business books are management and leadership, but 52,987, and I can almost guarantee you by the time you get a replay of this webinar, that number is probably going to be 53 or 54,000. So the more creative that you can get, the better, right? So take a look through some of the, and get really creative with your categories. Because, for example, under health, fitness, and dieting, look at the number beside teen health, 95. I was coaching a parenting author, and she had a book about teen health, actually. She had no idea that this category existed. She had this under parenting, which is a hugely saturated market. It's not a bad market for her, but it's bad in a sense that there are, 9 million other people competing for that spot. So instead I had her move it to teen health, and the book started to sell, and it started to sell well, and it climbed out of its 600,000 sales rank up to something that was a little bit more beneficial to the authors. So just get creative. I mean, I think that's the second part of this. And once you have the keywords, you want to get really creative with your categories. Now, fiction folks, listen up, because
Hey,
this
Penny?
is, yes.
Just a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. A whole
No.
bunch of people wanted to copy down the URL for that category page on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't get a chance to because it went by way too fast. So I just wanted to mention that ton of people asked for that URL.
Okay. Well, we are going to be sending off the PowerPoint too.
Great. Okay, so either on the webinar replay or from the slides, you'll be able to get all this information later. Thanks, Penny.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very welcome. So I wanted to show you guys the themes for romance and for mystery, okay? When you go to the romance page, when you go to the Kindle store and you click on contemporary romance, down the left-hand side, you will see these themes. And as I mentioned, these are now the new categories. So if you have your book in contemporary romance or in series romance or something like that, I would highly encourage you to narrow this down even further. So, for example, I was talking to an author, and she wrote a book where the hero was a politician. If you can imagine that, a politician that's a hero. But it was kind of an interesting congressman, so maybe not exactly the kind of politician that we're thinking of. But she didn't have this book listed under the politician segment within her romance market. So I suggested that she do that because there's a lot of, what Amazon told me is the reason that they changed this is because they were finding that a lot of consumers were actually searching based on, protagonists and based on, the themes, like, for example, second chances or secret baby or something like that. The same is true for the mystery folks. Now, you guys have 3 different refined buys, whereas romance only has 2. So you can refine this by, you can go pretty deep into this. And yes, you should grab one from each. Now, if you have more than one from each, you can do that as well. I recommend, in order to get segmented into these categories, you have to use the theme word in your keywords as you upload your book to the Amazon dashboard. If you were published traditionally, or if you do not have access to that dashboard, send these words to your publisher or whoever has access to it and have them change it, all right? The settings, again, they said you would be surprised at how many people actually want to read books like based in small towns. And by the way, this is something that I learned at Romance Writers of America. Redheaded heroines in small towns are kind of a big trend right now, which sounds a little curious, I know, but for whatever reason, that's trending right now in romance. But so keep in mind that the setting could be as important as the protagonist. You want to make sure that your book is segmented properly, all right? So you can flip categories. Now, I recommend find a few categories that you think are going to work well for your book. Get creative. Get really, really narrow if you can. And remember that you're only allowed to have 2 main categories. So, for example, I write a book on social media. I have a book called Red Hot Internet Publicity. And while I would love to be at the top of all social media books out there, with people like Jay Baer and Guy Kawasaki writing these amazing books and Peg Fitzpatrick, we're just not going to happen. So instead, I will go for a very narrow niche sub-market that'll help me to get more exposure and help me to hit top of category a lot quicker, okay? So let's segue over to Amazon Author Central quickly. And I want to cover, so I know we only have 15 minutes left, but I want to cover some trend things that will relate to your Amazon, that'll also help your Amazon algorithm, as well as Author Central, because I think it's really important for you guys to start tricking out your Author Central page. The reason for this is it does help with your visibility and exposure, okay? So Author Central has recently changed, and I'm going to pop back to that slide in just a second, but I want to show you guys this slide right now. They've recently changed their layout. So you can now, people can now favorite you, and every time you publish a book, they will know about it. So I really recommend ask your readers, your fans, to favorite your Author Central page. The other thing is, and I did not get this from Amazon, but I suspect that Amazon is going to start to fold your Author Central page into Goodreads. So because they own Goodreads. So I think that you're going to start to see a lot more exposure for this page. And as I said, it's a great way to get more visibility. You can also see, I'm going to go back to that review page, you can also see all your reviews on Amazon Author Central. This is also actually how you get a hold of Amazon. Whenever I say I talk to Amazon, I don't have an Amazon hotline. I do it just like you would do it. I call them through Author Central. Okay. So Author Central is a great way. I really recommend trick it out. Use the tools that Amazon gives you, and there are a lot of tools that Amazon gives you. So some of the things that are really, really, really trending on Amazon, one of them is short is the new long. Okay. When I talk about Amazon being a search engine, I am also talking about your visibility on your virtual shelf. So owning the shelf, right? By owning the shelf, what I mean is that you have a lot of books out there, but they don't all necessarily need to be long. In fact, one of the things that I've discovered is that 27,000 words or a 50-page book tend to do really, really, really well on Amazon. So if you have a long book that isn't really doing much, think about maybe chopping it up into 2 or 4 books, because having more books on Amazon will also help you to dominate your market. So one of the speakers at this conference said, she said it was a great term. She said, pick a lane. She goes, sometimes my husband, likes to switch lanes a lot when we go on vacation. She goes, and it really annoys me. And she said, so I always tell him, honey, pick a lane. And she said, the same is really true for authors. And I think that's really good advice. So there's no reason that you can't publish in different genres. But the problem with that is that it's going to some degree stagnate your growth. So I recommend to publish to a particular niche, publish to a particular genre, and publish consistently, right? And the other thing to consider is the book bundle. Now, this was the book that we experimented. This is the book that we experimented on for all the Amazon stuff. And, contemporary romance, which there are millions of contemporary romance books out there. But we took 2 shorter books and we bundled them. So that dashboard that you saw, or that shelf that you saw on the Amazon Author Central page, was actually only 2 books. But what I did is I had them, we split them up and we put new covers on them. And so now it's shelf worthy, right? There's a lot of these books owning the shelf within contemporary romance. This is the prior edition of How to Sell Books by the Truckload, which I also bundled. Bundling is a great idea. Super, super easy to do. It's all done with an ebook. You're going to get 2 or 3 or 5 books, however many you want, and you just bundle them together in one. So what I've actually had authors do, they say, you know what, I have a book that's 400 pages. Maybe I want to split it up. For fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't really matter, because readers are they love the shorter books. Not that long books are ever going to go away, but they do love the shorter books. And for those of you who have written fiction, readers really, really love a series. So I know that we are getting close. I want to cover the reviews just quickly, Joel, and then we will open it up for hopefully tons of questions. So if we were in a room together, I would ask you by a show of hands, how many of you would like to get more reviews for your book? And in which case, 80% of the hands would probably go up. It used to be that if you had 50 reviews on Amazon, that was amazing. Now 50 reviews is kind of a nice start. And part of the reason for that is because there are so many books published and readers have so many choices. Amazon reviews absolutely help with the algorithms. So that's something you should know. So you definitely want to reach out and get more reviews from Amazon. With the book that I showed you, the bundle book that I showed you, I did a test with it. So I offered the book for free for 2 days. We got 61,000 downloads. The author got 200 letters from readers, and I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. And the reviews went from 20 to over 200. Now the reviews are closing in on 300. And mind you, this is still an unknown self-published author in a very cluttered market. But the reason I was really excited about these numbers was because the thing that is going to change your life and make your promotion so much easier are your superfans or your readers. Because as you are publishing books, as you're updating your Amazon algorithms, you're still going to want to get those reviews. And bloggers are wonderful. I love all of our bloggers, but they are very, very busy. So you really want to make sure that you are reaching out to your readers. And the other reason for this is that I read a book by Nicholas Lovell called The Curve. And in it, he talked about the fact that you only need 1,000 superfans to hit the New York Times bestseller list. So that experiment that we did started with 200 letters from readers, and now that number is up to 549. And again, she is reaching out to all of these readers individually, giving them goodies and fun stuff and swag and, free books and exclusive access. And here's how we did it. We did it with this letter. Now, I wrote this letter. And part of the reason why I wrote it and I took the tone that I did was because Goodreads did a study about 2 years ago and found that the number one thing that readers want at the end of a book is to connect with the author. And a lot of times the letter that's in the back of the book is salesy, or there's just links to other books that people have published. And that's not really engaging. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create something that was completely engaging, something that was going to pull in the reader, get them to be part of her tribe, and it worked. And now whenever a book is released, we email we email her tribe, we email her superfans and let them know. And a book came out, we had a book come out, I think about 3 weeks ago, and we're already up to 50 reviews on this book. And actually, almost all 50 reviews happened within the first week and a half of the book being up on Amazon. And those were all super fans. When we released, when we had a book on pre-order, again, same series, same author, we had a book on pre-order. We did not promote this book. It was on pre-order for 3 weeks, and it sold 1,000 copies in pre-order, all super fans, and then it went off of pre-order, and it sold 1,500 in the first 2 weeks. And it went off of pre-order, by the way, December 15th, so worst possible time, to be releasing a book when everybody's so caught up in the holidays and whatnot. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because in line with getting more attention on Amazon, you got to get more reviews. And in order to do that, you're going to need fans. You're going to need some love from your readers. And you want to nurture those relationships and grow them because they will do pretty much anything for you if you do. They want to connect with you, the author. So really important. Help and as I said, you can engage them for all sorts of really fun things, and always reward them and always write them back a personal email because people want to feel important, and you want to start with your fans. Joel, do we have a lot of questions?
We do, Penny, but I think that we should tell people about your new program, and then
which I'm really excited about.
And then we can swing into the questions. I'm queuing the questions up. I'm going to be feeding them to you. But I think at this point, people would probably like to know what they can do to activate some of this stuff that you're talking about. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this program you have that's brand new about how to sell books by the truckload on Amazon?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. So I have never put a program like this together. We have typically done this all in-house for the authors that we work with, and we have an Amazon optimization program where we actually do it for them. So this is the very first time, and Joel came to me and said, I want to do this. I think this would be great. I think people would really love it. And it's been an incredible adventure because getting these video tutorials together and putting all of this information in one place where all you have to do is access it. And there are 10 videos in there right now, and I'm keep adding more because I was emailing Joel last week and I said, oh my gosh, we have to do a video on pre-order, and oh my gosh, we have to do a video on book bundle. There is so much to cover in terms of Amazon. There is so much amazing stuff to learn, and things that are up on the site that are accessible to all of us to get better sales. Joel, do you want me to flip to the next slide?
Yeah, let's go through it because I think this is probably the most exciting development I've seen in the last few years. And I do follow things pretty closely, Penny, as you know. But when we talked about this months ago, and I realized that you could actually put this program together for people, I thought to myself, I said, well, there is nothing that I can hand people or put in their hands if they want to sell more books. There's nothing more powerful I could put in their hands than your guidance, because you know how to do all this optimization that the rest of us are just scratching our heads about. So why don't you tell us what's actually in the program, Penny, the How to Sell Books by the Truckload video it's kind of like a video training course, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I did is I put together a video training course, and it's a combination of live, so it's a combination of on-screen walkthroughs, which we don't really always have the opportunity to do in webinars and either in person. So, and there are deep dive tutorials in terms of keyword research. So specifically, because keyword research is always, that's kind of the heart of this. That's where everything, that's where everything starts. And that tends to be where authors really struggle with. So we have the keyword research, we have, how to set up your book on Amazon, how to find the right category, finding the right categories. I even have a how to get a hold of Amazon, which is going to be part of the work that you're going to do. Is every once in a while you're going to want to reach out to them. The Amazon upload my book walkthrough, so we look at doing that, finding the right categories, how to bundle a book, how to have the best possible, like if you're doing an Amazon promo, how to do the best possible Amazon giveaway that you possibly can, some secrets to some keyword stuff that authors need to do as they're putting their, giving their book away for free or discounted for a few days. Absolutely everything that's in my head, including Kindle Unlimited, which I know is so controversial, but I'll tell you what, guys, you can make this stuff rock for you. I absolutely tell you, you can absolutely make this stuff rock for you. And everything that's in there has been tested. So nothing is put into this video tutorial that has not been tested. And the best part is these videos are going to consistently be updated. So as things change, videos are going to be added, videos are going to be updated. Things are always changing on Amazon, so you never have to worry about how am I going to keep up? How am I going to know what is Amazon doing next? Because that's what I'm here for, and I kind of make it my job, because I think Amazon is, for many of us, Amazon is the best way we have to sell a book. So why would you not want to rocket it to, to the
Absolutely.
highest position you can on Amazon?
Yeah, let's go to the next slide, Penny.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, Penny's doing kind of an overview in this webinar. I've seen the videos that Penny's making, and, they're so deep that there's no way she could teach you. Like, for instance, we had a lot of questions about keywords, categories, themes. This stuff takes a while to absorb. So the training program, the video training program, is the absolute best way to learn this, because you can, once you get access to the videos, you start them up. You can get Amazon up on your screen. You can get Penny's training on your screen at the same time. You can pause it. You can walk through it. You can watch over her shoulder exactly what she's doing. And you don't have to worry about this being out of date, because, like Penny said, she is constantly revising it. Now, one of the reasons I love this program is because, unlike some of the people in the market, and these may be authors who published a book and sold a ton of books, and hey, that's great. I'm really happy for them. But that doesn't really qualify you to be an expert on how to sell books on Amazon. Somebody like Penny, who has sold every different kind of book you can imagine for her clients over the years, She has the actual on the ground experience to know exactly how to do this. So go ahead, Penny, back to you.
Well, thank you. And this is also a program that we normally, if we're doing the work for you, the author, we're charging $999 for this program. So because we're doing all the keyword research and the categories and stuff like this. So this is the first time that we've made it available. And the reason that I wanted to do it in video tutorials is because things change all the time. In fact, I have a book that's out, How to Sell Books by the Truckload, and that book already needs to be slightly modified because Amazon changes all the time.
Absolutely. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay. So we are also going to talk about Kindle Unlimited, the secret book launch, and one of the things that I like to walk authors through is how to actually have a pre-order, a book pre-order that is gonna, that is actually going to rocket your book up the list, because you can use pre-order to help drive more exposure to your algorithms. And that's something that a lot of folks don't really know. Your pre-order, your book pre-order can really, really help you to kind of start to drive some interest to your to your algorithm, so that when the book launches, it's getting up there, it's hitting a higher number. Because the thing about it is that if your book comes out of pre-order, or if you put your book up on Amazon and it sits at the 4 million mark, it's hard to climb back out of that. Like, it's really hard to climb from 4 million up to 1,000. But it's a lot easier to get up to 1,000 or get up to the top 100 or whatever if your book launches on Amazon at 20,000 or even 40,000, because 20,000 or 27,000, as I mentioned, the top 1% on Amazon. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at, why you should give your book away, but why most people do it wrong. And again, everything that you could possibly want to know about Amazon. I got to tell you, Joel, I'm really seriously, I'm very, very proud of the system, because it's taken me a ton of time to learn it. I love learning it because I'm a huge geek, as you know. And it's once you get to know Amazon, I don't know, I find it to be a really, really, really great and fun site to, and it's not, if you have all the right pieces in place, it's actually a lot easier to get exposure. Because I see a lot of the questions, I think, when we first popped on, were from authors saying, how do I get visibility? How do I get noticed? And the interesting thing, Joel, is that, 20 years ago or whatever, when there were maybe 5 websites online, or 25
Right.
years ago or whatever, whenever Al Gore invented the internet, we weren't really talking about keywords. Like, nobody was talking about metadata or alt tags or anything like that. Now, when you are, if you're putting up a website, if you don't have keywords on your website, oh my gosh, you're just never going to get found. I don't understand why nobody has addressed this with books, which is why I started the slide off with metadata, because metadata for books is generally wrong. And I'm not saying that because, I'm this all-knowing Oz of Amazon, but it's absolutely because people aren't using keyword strings. And that's the biggest issue that I have in discoverability, is that these books aren't being found because you have to abide by consumer search patterns. And that's one of the things that we really, really dig into across, I think I have 3 or 4 videos just on keywords alone.
Well, Penny, just on behalf of all the authors out here, I just want to thank you for geeking out about all this stuff. That's definitely not my strength, but I'm relying on you to provide my geekiness, because I know that, I've heard people say Amazon really is more of a search engine than it is a retailer. And that really woke me up to the fact that if I don't approach Amazon the right way, my books just aren't going to get seen or sold as much as I think they should. So I think if you're an author and you've already put a lot of time, work, effort, and care into the books, into the packaging of the books, the promoting of the books, it just makes sense to me that that missing link for many people is actually understanding how these books get displayed, promoted, and sold on Amazon, because that's who's selling most of the books. Let's go to the next
Well,
slide.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is too, Joel, is that you know what? Over the years, over the 15 years that I've been in business, I have worked with a lot of authors who all they just want is they just want to get some attention for their book, and they have poured their heart and soul into it. And you know, I think this can help them, help them gain more visibility and gain more attention. So the bonuses. So we have a ton of bonuses, and these are, as I mentioned, walkthrough tutorials. We also look at the secrets to book bundling, and because I think book bundling, I'll tell you something. Next big thing, and everybody was talking about it at Romance Writers of America too. The reviews. I'm going to take you more in depth on. We're going to talk about how to build superfans, how to get more reviews. We're going to talk about swag, which I know I mentioned briefly on the call, as well as how to pitch Amazon reviewers and what you must know about about Amazon reviews. So quite a few bonuses. And like I said, we have 10 videos in there right now, which will keep you very busy, and a checklist and a copy of How to Sell Books by the Truckload. But I'm going to keep adding to that. So whoever, once you decide to grab this membership, you're going to continually see new videos being added. As things change on Amazon, videos are going to get updated and things like that.
Well, this is this is the best and most detailed training I've ever seen on optimizing for Amazon. I remember when Aaron Shepard's book came out many years ago, Aiming at Amazon, and it was just like a revolution in people understanding how to deal with Amazon. And I don't think there's been anything in the intervening years that has surpassed that original document. But this training course just blows it away. I mean, if you can sit
Thank
there
you.
and actually watch Penny do this optimization on Amazon, I think that's there's nothing more powerful than that. And people are probably wondering by this point, Penny, this is such a valuable piece of training, and these bonuses you put in here, I think, are really perfect because they're targeted at exactly the result that we're all trying to get. Like if I
Yep.
can get more Amazon reviewers, I'm going to get discovered more. I'm going to sell more books. So that's perfect. So let's end the mystery and flip over to the next slide here. Okay, so here
So
you see the price Penny's put on this, and also the URL where you can find out more about it. So Penny, talk to us about exactly how this pricing works and what it is people are going to get if they decide to really dive into how to sell books by the truckload on Amazon.
well, as I mentioned, we are. So this is actually this is actually a 1-year membership. So you are going to have access to the videos, and you're going to have access to any new knowledge that we acquire in terms of how to sell more books on Amazon. The other thing is that you should know is that I continually test new things. So every time Amazon does something new, like right now, for those of you who are in KDP Select, you know that Kindle Unlimited has changed how they are paying authors. So we're testing that right now. And I'm going to be posting those results as soon as we have it into the into this information as well. So basically, it's $199 for my Amazon brain. So everything, everything to do with Amazon and all of it, and the other thing I want to mention too, guys, is that for any of the PowerPoint presentations, for the PowerPoint videos, the PowerPoints are uploaded, so you get all of that information. And all you have to do is sign up. I'm so excited, Joel. I am so thrilled about this program. I really, really hope that it helps
Well,
a ton of people.
Penny, it's really, considering the fact that you actually charge $1,000 to do this optimization, this is unbelievably generous on your part. I mean, to make this available to indie authors, probably many of whom couldn't afford, even if it would work for them, they can't afford the $1,000. To be able to capture all of this stuff that that you've got running around in your brain and have been studying for years on Amazon for $199 is just, I don't know, I think it's an astonishing value because if you think about it, Penny, you wouldn't have to sell that many books to make up the cost of the course, would you?
No, no, you really wouldn't. And, I think that knowledge should be shared, which is why I do so much teaching and why I bang this drum about, Amazon optimization. And, the other reason that I wanted to do it is because there are a lot of amazing books out there that deserve more recognition than they're getting. And if you can't get on the Today Show, which most of us can't, if you can't wind up in, the Facebook book club, Amazon is an awesome place to sell a ton of books. I talk to authors all the time who are that's all they do is just sell on Amazon. I don't care about TV, I don't care about radio, I don't care about anything. I just want to drive people to Amazon. And you know what? I got to tell you, I think that's very smart. I think that's very, very smart.
Okay, Penny, you want to look? I think people. I put the URL for the sales page where this whole program is described in more detail, and you see it at the bottom of the screen there. That kind of long URL. I put it into both the chat and the question box, so you could just click the link and go over there and check it out. Now, Penny and I have been working for several months putting this presentation and program together, and we're running this special event pricing just during the next week. Today's Monday. I believe this is going to end on July 31st at midnight. So that's about 5 days from now. So I would encourage anyone who has any interest at all in increasing their book sales on Amazon to go over and check out this sales page right now. And I won't feel disturbed if you leave the webinar to go do that. Don't worry about it. And because it's not going to last long. On August 1st, the price is going back to the $2.99 price, which, by the way, Penny, I still think is a steal. Look, I was just doing a little calculation on the back of an envelope here, and I've got print books on Amazon that I make an average profit of about $6 or $7 per book. So really, I'm only talking about selling another 25 or 30 books just to pay for the program for a year.
Yeah.
That's, I don't think it would be very hard to do that. And if I really knew how to optimize all of my page listings, my categories, my keywords, I don't think I would have any problem paying for this program, and then I could use it for the whole rest of the year.
Well, and that's the thing about it too is that I wanted to create something that because so oftentimes I purchase stuff where, I think, oh my gosh, I'm really excited about it. And then maybe I don't get to it for a month or maybe I don't get to it for 3 months because, life is what it is. And so I wanted to create something that had sustainability for the long term. So if you don't get to it tomorrow, hopefully you do, but if you don't get to it tomorrow to start, tricking out your Amazon page, in 3 months it'll be as current as it is today. And I also wanted to create something that was really substantial because so many times I've bought stuff where I think, well, I'm so glad I spent $100 on this, and it was basically nothing. so, and I'm really, really that is how I've run my business, and I'm really, really anybody who knows me knows that's a huge deal for me. Is I wanted to create something that had over deliver. I worked with an author years ago who said, if you always and consistently over deliver in business, you will never be out of business. And so that's how I built this program.
Hey, me too, Penny. My thing has always been, if I help my readers get the results they want, then everything else will fall into place, and that's
Right,
proven
exactly.
to be true.
Exactly.
So you want to do some Q&A, Penny?
Yes, I would love to.
Well, here's one that's been a question that's been repeated by a number of people, and that is they've already published their book. It's for sale on Amazon, but now they realize their categories are all wrong. Can they change those themselves, or what exactly do they have to do to start doing that?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yes, you can change the categories yourself. You can go into your Amazon dashboard. But remember when we talked about how the Amazon dashboard only has the bisect categories? You may not find these super fun, super creative categories that you want. So what I recommend that you do is email Author Central and give them the links to the two categories that you want to be in and ask them to change it, and they will change it within 24 hours. Amazon Author Central is one of the best assets that Amazon has. Great, great, great people.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks, Penny. Now, also when you were talking about sales rank, a whole bunch of people wrote in and said, "Hey, how do I find that for my book?"
Well, the sales rank is on your book page. So it's on the page of the book. It's down with the book details. It's down with the book details, and it'll show you Amazon bestseller rank and the number.
Right below it's where they actually list all the metadata. For instance, in that
Yeah.
data block, they show the date it was published, the publisher, and right below that is where you're going to find your sales rank.
And let me just I can pull over the let me see if I can pull this over if you can see this. I don't know. Can you see this page right now, Joel?
Yep,
Okay.
the girl
So
on the
this is
train.
The Girl on the Train, which I just finished listening to an audio, and the narration was amazing. I loved it. But if I go down on this page, so we've got a lot of reviews, etc. Amazon bestseller rank, number 2 in paid Kindle store. Perchance to dream. But this is where you're going to see the sales rank stuff.
Yeah, and it's called Amazon Bestsellers Rank.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
that's what you're looking for, and it's going to show you in different categories even where your rank is. You ready
Right.
for another one?
Yes, please.
Okay, this was an interesting question. If my book is listed under the science fiction category, does my keywords also need to include science fiction as one of my keywords?
That is a great question, and the answer to that is yes and no. The answer to that is that your keywords are going to have some derivative of science fiction in it. But think about how you are as a consumer. If you're looking for a science fiction book, you probably aren't just going into Amazon and typing in the word science fiction, right? Or sci-fi. You're probably typing in something along the lines of sci-fi and aliens, or sci-fi and maybe paranormal romance, or something like that. So yes, to answer your question, you are going to have the term sci-fi, but it is probably going to be accompanied by something else, if that makes sense. Because you want to think again about how the consumer searches, and they generally don't search on just one singular keyword.
Okay, good. Okay, a couple of people asked about the example you gave about categories with a small number of books in them as giving you a lot of leverage. But they wanted
Mm-hmm.
to know, does that also mean that there's less demand, i.e., there are fewer potential sales in those categories?
No, but that's an excellent question. A smaller number of books in a category does not necessarily equate to the demand of the books overall. Now, in some cases, it might. So, in some cases, you may get a category that is really just, let's say it's a category of underwater basket weaving or something, which probably doesn't have a huge demand. But for the most part, in 99% of the cases, a smaller number in a category does not necessarily mean that these books aren't selling well. For example, women in business. How many women in business books are there out there? I mean, there are a ton of them, and yet nobody's putting them in this category. Part of the reason why that's not happening is because the publishers, and with great respect for all the publishers, the New York publishers out there, but the publishers don't often have the time or the bandwidth that they're publishing 70 books a season, or a quarter, to go through and find these very niche categories. So the fact of the matter is they're not being used. That's why there aren't a lot of books in them.
Interesting. Very good. All right, here's one that I bet you haven't had before.
What's that?
This one is, I recently got married and I took on my husband's last name. Is there a problem to change my current Amazon profile?
That is a great question. I would say yes. Now, it's going to depend, and I don't mean to sound ambiguous at all, but it's going to depend a little bit on how much traction that you feel you have under that other name. So let me give you an example. If you've published 2 or 3 or 4 or more books under that name, and you've already started to build maybe a mailing list or fans or something like that, then I would say, you know what? Leave it. Tell your husband, honey, I love you, but I'm going to keep this name because that's my brand. But if you only have one book out and you don't have a lot of traction for it, or maybe you have two books out and you don't have a lot of traction, you don't have a mailing list, if people don't know you, then I think it's okay. In which case I would maybe consider hyphenating it just on Amazon to make sure that for those who do recognize you, they'll know. But your author brand is really important. This is part of the reason why if you're writing under a pen name, guys, decide the pen name you want, because it's really hard to recover from a bad pen name if you end up, getting a huge amount of traction for your books, which is a high quality problem to have, I understand. But your name is your brand. So I hope that answered your question.
Well, I think that was pretty good. Here's one from David. He says, I can't even find my books on Amazon, even naming it by the title or author. They're very hard to find. Should I rename my books?
Well, so he's having a hard time finding it by title or author.
That's what he says.
Um, okay, so couple of problems. So a couple of problems that I've seen with regards to this. It could be your Amazon algorithms, okay? So it could be that you don't have any keywords, etc. It could be that your book was just recently listed. I'd really be interested to know when his book was actually put onto Amazon. Because if you have just put your book onto Amazon and you haven't done anything, which I'm going to walk you through in the videos as in terms of how to start, how to launch a book effectively on Amazon, it could take 3 or 4 weeks for your book to even show up in the Amazon system. I mean, the Amazon spiders to recognize that you have this book and to start to show up in searches. So that could be part of the problem. The other part of the problem could be your listing. So in some cases, I've seen publishers that list mistakes in the book title, that list mistakes in the author name. And so you want to check your page for make sure that it's quote unquote error free. But those are the reasons that I have seen that books don't show up.
Okay. All right. So I've got more questions for you.
Yes.
Let's see. Will there be a Q&A? Yeah, we're doing it right now. Okay. A number of people wanted to know where they could go to find the more detailed categories beyond the BISAC categories.
Well, and that was what I walked you guys through on the webinar. So by clicking Kindle Store, by highlighting Kindle Store and then clicking Go, that'll take you to the Amazon ebook side, the Kindle Store, and that'll get you into a whole bunch of niche non-BISAC categories.
Okay. So also we had a few questions about these new themes, Penny, and I can't answer those because that's totally new to me. Like for instance, people asked where can they find a list of themes? If a book's already published, can they add the themes later? Stuff like that.
So yes, you can add the themes later. How you find themes is by going to, so if you have a fiction book, go to that particular category on Amazon via the Kindle Store, right? Via the Kindle Store, and look for your themes there. And then those themes can be added to your Amazon dashboard. Now, let me say something to you guys who have your books on KDP, on Kindle Direct Publishing. If you click on the marketing tab, and in the videos I have not created this yet, but I am going to do that shortly. You can actually find all of the themes for every single genre on Amazon in your KDP page. And so you can do it through the Kindle Store, or you can go to the back end of KDP. And like I said, I'll show you where that, we'll definitely show you where that is. And if you have a nonfiction book, you will see the themes for nonfiction, although Amazon has yet to roll those out. I hope that made sense.
Okay. Somebody had a question about what you referred to, Penny, as category flipping, and they want to know if you just meant changing the categories after the book had been published, if it's not selling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And guys, let me tell you right now, I category flip a lot, okay? And if I see that a book is not, if I see that a book is not selling, sometimes I will go in and change the keywords, and other times I will go in and change the categories. What I recommend that you do is try to find 4 or 5 categories that are good for your book. Be creative with it. Remember the example that I gave you of teen health and parenting? Um, be creative with it a little bit, and um, you can go in and change those later. Now, what I recommend that you do is if you hit top of category, so if you're consistently number one, let's say in teen health, you could try to experiment with a different category and see if you could get to the top of that one. However, if you were dominating the top of a particular category, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't flip out of it. I would just leave it, because every time you get in there and change it, you can it makes you have to sort of start over again in terms of your categories.
Well, here's somebody who's already put this into use. We have had a couple of people, somebody just wrote in and said they just bought the program and their heart hasn't beat this fast for years.
Oh!
That's kind of cool.
I
And
love
here's
it. Thank you so much.
Steven says, "Wow, he just figured out from your talk how to do drop downs for categories for Spanish." He says, "Thanks
Oh my
for the
gosh,
link."
that's great.
That's exactly what he was looking for.
Guys, I'm so excited. And you know what? For those of you international folks, if you're still hanging in there, which bless you if you are, because I know the hour is getting even later or earlier as the case may be, you guys, I know you guys really want that US and that broader international exposure. This will really, really help you. Really, really get in there and pay attention to your keywords. And if you are trying to gain international exposure, and I know we didn't cover this, but we will cover it in the videos. If you were trying to get international exposure, so here's a little tip for you fiction authors. Genre fiction does really, really, really well in Europe. In fact, even non-translated English books do really well there. You can also trick out your author central pages in those countries to help you gain more exposure there.
Fantastic, and that's becoming a bigger and bigger market, Penny, from what I've been hearing for a lot of authors. You know, the whole past year, I would say, I keep getting messages from authors about how they're surprised that their international sales have been picking up. And I know that's true for me. I've started to get a lot of action from India, for instance. It's become a main source of revenue, and can't explain exactly why, but being available on all the different Amazon international sites has really got to be a huge benefit for any indie author.
Well, and that's the thing, and this is where so my mother lives in Belgium. I was there for 10 years. I I'm maybe naturally predisposed to consider the European markets because I spend so much time there. But I will tell you guys, if you're not looking at growing your sales internationally, you really, really should, because we have an author who sells contemporary romance. Actually, the author that I showed you the example in this slide deck, she sells like crazy in Japan, non-translated, by the way. So you really, I mean, I got to tell you, your overseas markets. And here's a little from me to you. Here's a little tip for you. I think that the European markets are probably 2 or 3 years away from completely exploding in Kindle. So what I recommend that you do is start to position yourself. Take a look at your Author Central page overseas, and like I said, we'll walk you through that in the video. Take a look at your Author Central pages overseas. Take a look at your overseas pages. See what they look like. Now, I realize your overseas page in Japan or China is going to be a little bit harder to read. However, you can still grab your international Author Central pages, which will also help you with your visibility. But that is the next big frontier for many ebook authors. So get ready.
Okay, Penny, here's a kind of a geeky question. So I guess this is
Love it.
right up your alley. But let me read through this. When you find a profitable keyword from the research you're doing on Amazon that you want to rank your book for, how do you figure out the best category to put the book in? I recall Penny mentioning that she would explain how you take the category or keyword you found and trace it back to Amazon's standard categories from the page you were showing in the beginning?
Well, you're not actually going to trace it back to Amazon standard categories because Amazon standard categories only work for very standard books, which by standard, I mean if you're not being creative enough with your Amazon page. So the reason I was walking you through the whole BISAC category thing is because you should know that your standard BISAC categories are what Amazon gives you, but the categories that you're going to grab are going to be non-standard. So you're going to go through Author Central and have those updated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
Okay, good.
pretty clear.
I love geek questions, guys. More geek questions.
Well, here's one, and this is from Kristen. She says she's going to have her print books ready for sale before her ebooks. So she's wondering if you would suggest that she really goes all out on her launch to have a high sales rank right from the start.
The answer is yes. So here's the interesting thing. If you have print books pubbing before you have ebooks, the tools that I'm going to walk you through in terms of your book launch are actually going to work better for, or may work better for your Kindle only because you can do the Kindle pre-order, but you can't yet do it for the print book unless you're attached to a publisher. Okay. Now, what you can do is you can promote the heck out of your print book and get your and get your categories going and your keywords and all of that good stuff. However, what you're going to find is that you're going to find probably deeper categories for your Kindle book because, as I showed you, the Kindle store has more creativity when it comes to categories. And you may find that the keywords for the Kindle book are much more creative than are much more creative for you than the print book. But when your Kindle book launches, it will bring up your it'll help to raise your the rising tide. It'll help to raise your print book. By the way, and in that vein, I want to mention something. So if you do not have access to your print book, and a lot of authors that I talk to, they have access to their their ebook only. They don't have access to their print. If all you can do is change your ebook details, your keywords, your categories, etc., it will help to raise the attention on your print book because they're connected on Amazon through your name and through the book title, and maybe also the ISBN number, depending on whether or not they are the same. So if you can get in there and just change the ebook stuff. I mean, I think that is really more than, that will really suffice to help bring up the, raise the attention on the print book too.
Well, that also handled another question because somebody else was asking about the difference between the KDP categories and the print categories. And I mean, I've run into that myself. It's just crazy, but it's like a whole different set of categories. Why is that? Nobody knows.
Well, I think that part of the reason why that's different is because Amazon has a lot more Kindle titles than they do print books. I would expect, and I don't know this obviously because Amazon's not sharing these numbers with me, but I would expect that the Amazon, the Kindle store is probably 2 or 3 times bigger than the print book store. The reason is because a lot of authors can go straight to ebook. In fact, for How to Sell Books by the Truckload, which the first time I published that I think was a year and a half ago, I went straight to ebook on that. I didn't even get an ISBN number.
Okay. So listen, we're pretty much running out of time. We probably only have time for 1 or 2 quick questions. And I just wanted to know, Penny, if people have questions specifically about the How to Sell Books by the Truckload on Amazon video program, how can they, if they have questions, who should they get in contact about them?
If they have questions specific to what's in the program?
Yeah.
You can email me at penny@amarketingexpert.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And we will be, as I mentioned, we will be sharing the recording, so you'll be able to go through some of the questions. And I hope I got everybody's questions on the call. I mean, I know we had a ton of people, which is
There, Penny, there are more questions than we could answer if we sat here for another hour and a half.
awesome.
So,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
I'm going to be honest about this, folks. I'm going to get this list of questions from GoToWebinar. I'm going to send it to Penny and her staff, and I know they're going to try and work through as many of these as they can over the next few days. Because I really want people to, if you find this of interest at all, if you've sat and looked at that upload screen at Amazon or wondered why books similar to yours are getting found a lot more than yours are, how come somebody else with a similar book is selling a ton and you're not selling any? I mean, I just worked out on my little handy calculator here at my current profit royalty on my print books on Amazon. I would have to sell 33 more books than I'm selling now. And that wouldn't be very hard, trust me. I'd like to sell 33 more books over the next month. Forget the next year. I'd like to sell a few hundred more a month. So if you're thinking about that kind of stuff, I would suggest going over to the sales page. I put the URL right into the question box and also the chat box, so you can just click it and check it out, because this could be potentially the smartest investment you've ever made in actually selling books. Look, there are people out there who want to charge you $200 to write a press release or
Yeah.
$200 to do a paid review for your book. So you tell me, what do you think is going to actually profit you better? Understanding how to optimize your books on Amazon, something that you could use over and over again, or buying one press release? I think the answer is like really kind of pretty simple. So I would encourage anyone thinking about this or thinking about getting more sales from the work they put into their books to check out this program. I know that Penny has fully guaranteed this. So, I mean, if you have any problems or questions, they're going to be there, her staff, to help you out. And so it's just a really great deal. It's going until July 31st. I think that's Friday night, isn't it? Today's the
Mhm.
25th.
It's Friday night. Yeah, it's
I
Friday
just
night.
had to count on my
And
fingers. Yeah, that's Friday night. And so I wouldn't delay. Let's see if we can have one more question that would be really good. Let's see. Okay. Somebody wants to know if the program is going to include Q&A or any way to get answers to specific questions.
it is not. It may eventually, but right now, in order to keep it at this price, we could not include. We just couldn't include personal coaching time. But I think eventually we may do that.
And I think that that's really important because, like we said a couple of times, Penny and her staff actually do this. I mean, you could hire Penny to do this for you if you don't feel like you have the time or the inclination, or if just things like keywords make your head hurt. you know, but be aware of the fact that the service itself costs about $1,000. So, I mean, if you can picture yourself sitting at your computer, just watching as Penny walks you through exactly how to do it step by step, I think that's, going to interest a lot of people, and I can absolutely see why.
Well, and one of the other things that, I think it's important to know is that Amazon knows that I teach these classes, because the Amazon folks have actually sat in on these classes, which, by the way, I got to tell you, Joel, made me really nervous. Like, oh my God, the Amazon people are here. But I've, made sure that they knew that I published the book. Everything that I teach is all, a lot of people like to say that Amazon's a bad guy, but I got to tell you, there is so much stuff on that site that can really help to benefit authors. And I really wanted authors to be able to use it. Now, do we have any more questions? Do you want to take one more question from somebody? Because
One
I am
more.
more than willing.
You want a rumor question?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
here's a good one. Somebody heard a rumor that if you publish at Ingram Spark, that will lower your ranking on Amazon, and you'll end up having two different rankings. I don't understand that. So, what if you don't want to use CreateSpace?
You don't have to use CreateSpace. You can use anything you want. But I got to tell you though, to that rumor, first off, I don't know if there's anything to that rumor. There are a lot of Amazon rumors out there. I don't know that there's anything to that rumor in particular. However, what I would encourage everybody on the call listening to the replay is when you publish your ebook, do so through the KDP system. And I'm not encouraging you to do KDP Select or Kindle Unlimited, and we'll cover that in the video series. But the reason that I want you to publish that way is because then you can control the book details that go, the metadata that goes onto the Amazon system. If you don't control that, sometimes it's really hard to have access to it. I have talked to authors who literally have no access to any of their book details, and their book basically just sort of sits there and does what it does, and so and then there they go. I'm a control freak. Actually, I prefer the term control enthusiast. I like to control. I like to control every place that my book exists. And right now, I don't even have my books on Barnes & Noble and iTunes. I just have them on Amazon. And part of the reason why I do that is because I have it in the KDP system. I rotate it in and out of KDP Select. And I don't care where my print book is published. Like, I don't care who publishes that. But I want to control my ebook. So I don't know about the Spark system. It may be something in how the books are uploaded. I will investigate it, however, and if I find that that's true, I can guarantee you I will post something on my blog about it.
Well, that's fantastic, Penny, and it's really interesting to get a peek into your own strategies for your own books because that's fascinating, and I'm sure everybody's interested in that. But we've come to the end of our time. We're never going to run out of questions on Amazon. It's just not going to happen. But I really want to thank you, Penny, for taking the time to put this webinar together and really for making available this incredibly valuable information in your How to Sell Books by the Truckload on Amazon video tutorial program. That's a mouthful, but it's really amazingly worthwhile. So I'm going to encourage people one last time to go over to that sales page and check it out. I know there are people who've been writing in saying they've already bought it. They're already working on their new categories and keywords. I just know those people are going to start getting results like tonight. It's
I'm
not
so
going to take
excited.
long.
I am so excited to see books selling better and books that deserve attention and maybe aren't currently getting them. So
Yeah,
that's my mission, Joel. Thank you for letting me
it's totally
bring this to your.
cool, and I'm so glad we had a chance to do this, Penny. I want to
Yes.
thank everyone who's still on the call. A lot of people really hung in there for the Q&A session, so thank you. Watch out for the email with the webinar replay link. It'll be coming your way either later today or early tomorrow, probably today, because they've been getting very fast at processing these videos. And I want to thank everyone for coming in, and go out there and publish some books.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Joel. Bye-bye. Joel, thank you.